Welcome to Here and Now. Once again, we begin on the south coast in St. Lawrence, where the search for a fourth missing fisherman will soon end. Here's what we know now. 4 men left the community to go crab fishing in Placentia Bay shortly after midnight on Sunday. They were aboard a 35-foot-long boat called the Sarah Ann. That fishing trip was meant to be their last. Scott Norman, he worked in the offshore. A third member of the Norman family was also there, 42-year-old Jody Norman. He was Ed's nephew and cousin to Scott. Jody Norman worked as a fisherman. Isaac Kettle, a miner from Red Lake, was the 4th man on board the Sarah Ann. Isaac is said to be in his early 30s, and that's who the Coast Guard continues to search for right now. But that will soon change. The search for these men began Monday night and has spanned 650 nautical miles. A little over than half an hour ago came some very difficult news. The Canadian Coast Guard says it's unlikely Isaac Kettle has survived in the water this long. In about 3 hours from now, the search will be over.
As you know, we've had a couple aircraft, a couple Coast Guard assets, and Coast Guard auxiliary member. But, it has come to a point now where we're looking at a search reduction. At sunset today, our assets will stop searching. We've extended well past any possibility of finding a survivor at this point. We've covered the search area over and over again to a very high factor with nothing more found. And we've exhausted all leads that we have. There's simply, at this point, no real chance of finding a survivor, and thus the search and rescue portion has to conclude. It's tragic. Our hearts are with the family members, the people of the community. We've lived through it with them, and it's an awful situation to have to deal with.
That news will no doubt be a disappointment for the community. Anthony joins us live from St. Lawrence again tonight. So Anthony, you've been speaking with people there today. How are they coping?
Well, you look behind and this is a town that's still in mourning and still really in shock and trying to figure out exactly what to do next and try to understand. So I'm on this assignment with the CBC's Garrett Barry, and we were gathering to get ready for an interview. And a gentleman came up to us and we realized who he was. He told us that he was the brother of one of the deceased, Ed Norman. And initially he didn't really want to talk to us. He told us he did not want to go on camera, but he had a lot to say about his brother. And you could see some pride in his eyes when he talked about his brother and some sadness because of the loss. And he agreed to do an interview, just not on camera. And this is what he had to say. Tell me about your brother.
Well, when we were kids, we grew up with my father, like we were speaking to earlier there, and we grew up in the fishing boats, same as most of the Newfoundland families, right? We were involved in the trapping and gill netting and crab and pretty well all the species that you could catch. Well, Ed was well known here like as a fisherman, and he's a carpenter by trade. He did all his work his own self with his boat, and he's a pretty good fellow. Jody, top of the line, good man too. He was 42, I think he was, Jody, and he's the type of fellow, if I wanted something done, call him. Not only me, all my family.
We're trying to sort of make the connections between the families. So there are a lot of children
yes.
who don't have a father anymore now.
Exactly.
Have you been speaking with other members of the family?
I was just come from one member of the family now, or 2 members. It's now a bad break, I tell you. Like you say, we don't know what happened, right?
Yeah. And given the situation with COVID-19, what do you hope to do to remember these loved ones properly?
Well, we're hoping that they would ease off a little bit to give us room to get in. Or instead of 10 people, probably 20, or you could use 10 and 10.
Right. So you could do, the maximum is 10, but you could do 10
and then come out and
put another 10.
Put another 10 in for an hour or whatever, right?
Because normally, this would be the kind of incident, as has happened before in the history of this town, where you would
yes.
have the whole town.
Oh my God, if you were allowed to get in this church here, that'd be full. And it'd be standing room.
How are you handling this now that you realize your brother's gone? How are you?
Well, I don't know if I'm in a bit of shock or no yet, but I seem to be a bit strong. You know, I spent a lot of time around them down the stage and helping them out when I could. You know.
So now I guess your job is to stay as strong as you are right now and try to help out the rest of the family, because I think some members are still in shock.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, listen, I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And all the best as you try to remember them properly.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Well, some powerful words from someone who is so closely tied to this tragedy. But Anthony, this goes beyond just family and friends. Fishermen from all over the area helped in this search.
What you have to remember, and I think most people watching certainly know, is in a community like St. Lawrence, I mean, people are really, really like this. So whether it's a direct brother or just a friend, the closeness here is so tight. So you can feel the sadness, and you can see it in people's faces when you actually around here. And one of the people that we met was a gentleman named Eric Reeves. Now, he's a person who's been fishing for 30 years, and he agreed to speak with us. And the first thing that he made very clear was that everybody tried to do what they really thought was important. That was to go out and find these people alive. And that's what we talked about. Eric, tell me about your part in the search.
We took part in the search. We left at around 11:30 on Sunday night. We heard that, you know, there's something wrong, and there's boats proceeded to the scene that we thought that they were. So we went on, and we arrived there at probably 3:15.
And you found some personal items.
Yes, we did. Yeah, we found a coffee mug belonging to the skipper's son, and his name was wrote on it. And then we knew there was something tragedy happened there. I placed it in a bag, and I not long dropped it off to his wife.
How's she doing? How's the family doing?
It's heartbreaking. It's sad. It's very sad for everybody. Everywhere I go, there's broken hearts.
How did your mind process this when you realized how serious this was?
It was not a good feeling. It was very, I don't know. They should have been, well, not should have been, but they were normally in at around 1 or 2 o'clock like that, and they're only taking up the crab pots. And when he wasn't in that evening, there's a queer feeling go through you. And then we, you know, started to go and look, and search began. And when you find something that you don't want to find, I tell you, it's heartbreaking.
You know, you could feel talking to him, you could feel this thing in his chest as he was speaking about the loss. And one of the things that strikes you, Carol, when you're talking to people here is just the fact that what do we do next? How do we actually remember these people? That's a big question in this community because of what we're living through with the COVID pandemic. And in speaking with people here, you know, a lot of people are talking about the fact that the CBC had not mentioned the names of these people. And the reason for that, a lot of questions on social media, is that there are new widows here, and they had not had conversations, some of them with teenagers, to tell them what had happened. And that's why we waited until now to actually talk about these people and put a face on this tragedy. Now, how do you actually give closure to this tragedy? And to try to get some answers to that, we went to the St. Thomas Aquinas Church and met the priest there, and this is Father Nelson Boren. Well, Father Nelson, what were your first thoughts when you heard about this tragedy?
I've heard this news yesterday morning, and I was shocked because I know these people. They are my parishioners, and I married one last 2018.
How do you balance the spiritual needs of a community with a tragedy like this during a pandemic when you can only have 10 people at a funeral?
What I did is I went to Facebook, to the Facebook page of the parish, which was managed previously by the parish coordinator, but now I am handling it myself and with another volunteer. So whenever I have news and communications, I post it there. My online masses is there. So on Sundays, I go live streaming.
Okay. But up until now, funeral services have all been postponed or canceled?
Yeah, so most people canceled their funeral services since March, and then they just told me that they would just wait until such time that we can gather in public worship.
Right, but in this case?
But in this case, it would be a different thing. So I am waiting for the family as well on what is their preference. So, but from my end, I am organizing an online service.
All right. Now, as a person, as a priest who moved to Newfoundland, and you've worked in several locations, what's St. Lawrence like?
Well, St. Lawrence is like, family oriented, and they know each other. So they know me and I know them. And even if you are just walking along the street, so they would say hi and hello, yes, bye. So I would just reply to them and respond to them with very courteous and respectful to them as well.
Right. Now, as you know, the community's in a lot of pain, particularly the families, and so many families are affected. How do you, putting aside the funerals, how do you provide comfort to the families and the people who are still living with such a loss?
The first thing that I do, or the priest does, is to contact the family and see to it that they are, attended to, or as a minister of comfort, as a priest. It's really hard during these times as well, especially when we have COVID-19 on top of that, and this pandemic is affecting everyone. But now here we are facing another tragedy in the community itself.
Father Nelson, obviously you're going to be busy in a very sad way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Well, joining me once again is the mayor of this town, Mr. Pike. It's good for you to come back right now. As we reported tonight, the search is going to end at 8:45. Your thoughts on that?
Well, we spent most of the day, really the search was supposed to end at 12 today, but we spent most of the day trying to work with the government departments and agencies and our politicians, our federal and provincial politicians, to try it. It was very time sensitive because we had to do it by 12, but we were able to get it extended to 8:45 tonight, and as we speak we're still working with government agencies and so on, and the FFAW, to try and get the search extended into tomorrow.
Right.
So we're hoping for that.
It's been a very extensive search, as you know, and I guess it's very difficult to sort of call it off.
Yes, and we're still looking for one more body, and we're hoping that that can be found, and the fisherman can be brought home to his family.
Right. And very quickly, there's some services, counseling services for people.
Yes, the U.S. Memorial Hospital has established their rapid response team. They're going to be dealing with staff and the families tomorrow, virtually, as well as the general public will start their sessions on Friday, and information's being put in everybody's mailbox here in town. The St. Lawrence Academy School, they have their virtual classroom set up tomorrow. Google Meet beginning at 1 o'clock, 1 to 3.
Right.
Teachers will be available. They have an education psychologist as well as a guidance counselor there, and as part of their crisis intervention protocol.
Well, Mr. Pike, normally I would shake hands with you, but that's the situation, the reality, we can't do that. So I want to thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. So, of course, the mayor was with us last night on Here and Now, and I have to say, Carolyn, one of the things that strikes me, I've covered earthquakes, I've covered wars, I've covered tragedies, I've covered lost ships, but what's really strange about this one is normally you see people walking the streets holding hands, hugging, maybe the occasional kiss, but the reality, because of the context of the pandemic and this tragedy, people just can't grieve the way we normally do.
So very, very true. Thanks so much, Anthony, for capturing the feeling in the community right now, and our hearts go out to the families and the people in St. Lawrence. Welcome back to Here and Now. Heavy debt and a global pandemic has brought an end to Universal Helicopters. The Labrador-based company has been operating in this province for nearly 6 decades. It's partly owned by the Natsiavut group of companies. In 2018, Universal Helicopters bought a BC-based helicopter company. That deal brought a high level of bank debt. The company engaged legal and financial advisors, negotiated with creditors, and retained a broker to help with marketing and sales of its assets, but that didn't work. Universal officially closed its doors yesterday. Well, to the West Coast now, Stephenville's airport continues to struggle as 2 more airlines cancel their summer flights to the community. Sunwing won't be flying to Stephenville when it resumes regular service to and from Toronto next month. Porter Airlines will also cancel the stop when it resumes regular service in July. Back in January, Provincial Airlines discontinued its regular service to Stephenville. The town council has pumped more than $500,000 into the airport in the past year and says changes are expected soon.
Hoping for a new restructure of how we do business here in Stephenville at the airport. There's been some good work done in the past. We're still open, but it hasn't been enough to sustain us. And the taxpayers of this town is tired of spending, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, but yet we still got to get in our vehicles and drive to Deer Lake to fly out of here for the most part.
Well, Newfoundland and Labrador's largest poultry producer has avoided the spread of COVID-19 among employees, but the union that represents its workers says restaurant closures have reduced demand for Country Ribbon's chicken. Here and Now's Mark Quinn reports.
More than 200 people work in this plant near Kitty Vitty, and they're all represented by NAPE. And its president says all of them have managed to avoid COVID-19 infection.
That's obviously a concern that we watch every day, Mark, knowing what's happened in central Canada and the most recent actually to a poultry processing plant, I believe, in Quebec.
A Cargill meat processing plant south of Montreal was forced to close weeks ago after 64 workers there were infected with the virus. It's left some wondering, how is this facility faring? Country Ribbon declined requests for an interview, but the company sent CBC a statement saying it's put robust measures in place to protect employees. The company said, quote, "Employees are screened every day for temperature, and we have had 2 symptomatic employees tested, and both were negative." Earl says the union is satisfied that a combination of physical distancing and regular cleaning is keeping employees safe. He says restaurant closures have meant a drop in production at this facility, but no layoffs of full-time employees.
Demand has dropped off a little bit, and that would be because they supply some restaurants, some fast food and that, so that would have lessened the demand on the poultry product. So yeah, it's been an impact there.
The company expects demand will go back to normal when public health measures that have closed many restaurants are lifted. Many hope that will happen as soon as June 8th. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, it's now 20 days with no new cases of COVID-19. With just 2 active cases, most restrictions are still in place. That includes no visitors for residents of long-term care facilities. That's taken a toll on residents who've been cut off from seeing family. Today, the health minister said they're waiting to see what happens in other provinces who are allowing some visitation.
There's always a rush for me too, but sometimes it's worth saying, well, yes, we'll give them a week and let's see how they do, because this is all new. There is no playbook, and the one message I get every day in my inbox on social media is, let's take it slow, let's not run before we can walk, so we don't trip. So it is a balance, and I think you'll see changes around alert level 3 if things look good.
Weather update is brought to you by the sold-out HCF Home Lottery. Thank you, Newfoundland and Labrador. Your support has been overwhelming. Prize winners will be announced on June 25th at hcfhomelottery.ca.
It was a little cooler in areas today, certainly along the northeast, and it took a little bit of time this afternoon for it to warm up. These were our daytime highs for most of the areas. If you take a look at the temperatures on the west coast, beautiful, 21 degrees in Corner Brook so far. Those temperatures along the south coast even into the teens. And then that 10 degrees for St. John's was this morning. They've dropped through the day, but they are starting to rebound a little bit as well, but we'll see those temperatures drop as we head through the overnight tonight. Otherwise, we've got those temperatures in the teens for Happy Valley Goose Bay, same for Lab City, and then single digits along the coast. Now, we do have a ridge of high pressure that developed, so things actually cleared out for most of the island. Hanging on to that cloud cover in the east, though, a little bit of some clearing for the northern portion of the Avalon, but overall, we have stayed with those cloudy skies. And as we head through the night tonight, we're going to see some showers move in for Lab West that will spread across the island through the, or rather for the Big Land through the overnight tonight. And along the south coast as well, looking at that potential for a few showers. By morning, that will make their way pretty much across the island and spread further east into the morning hours. We could see some periods of rain with this, but generally just looking at the chance of showers, as well as those winds ramping up a little bit. So we're looking at gusts either out of the south or southwest, somewhere between 40 to as much as 60 kilometers per hour through the day. And then eventually we should actually see some clearing through the afternoon, which is good news. And then showers will move back in late day for the Big Land as well as the northern peninsula. Here's your temperatures tomorrow, rebounding quite nicely for the Avalon, into the teens, pretty much for the south and eastern portion of the island, and then into those 20s. We're looking at some warmer air moving in as we head through the next couple of days, hanging on to those temperatures in the teens for both Lab City and Happy Valley Goose Bay, but Nain only seeing a high near 4 degrees tomorrow, which means you could see a few flurries in the mix. Come Friday, this is what we've all been waiting for. That humid air is actually going to move in, and these temperatures might be a little bit low for St. John's at 23. Might see a few more degrees in that, but at this point, we're looking at 23 beautiful degrees for the east, 27 for Grand Falls, Windsor, hanging on to those teen temperatures again up through Labrador, but unfortunately, it is looking a little bit wet. And as we head through the weekend, there's plenty more where that came from. We're looking at temperatures in the 20s Friday, Saturday, looking like plenty of sunshine, just a few showers possible on Sunday, and 20. And then 19 degrees for Monday. Those temperatures going to stay beautiful for the weekend. For central Newfoundland, plenty of sunshine. Looking like we'll see some showers, unfortunately, for the west. But again, those temperatures in the 20s across the board. Lab West, you're looking at temperatures dropping as we go through the weekend, and then hovering around the 10-degree mark for eastern Labrador. Wanted to share this great shot of Terra Nova. Thank you so much for sending that photo in. And if you have any weather photos to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Well, it's a heartbreaking ending to an already tragic story in St. Lawrence tonight. Just before 9 o'clock this evening, the Canadian Coast Guard will end its search for Isaac Kettle. He's the fourth fisherman who was lost aboard the boat Sarah Ann and has yet to be recovered from Placentia Bay. We're going to leave you now with the view in St. Lawrence, where a community is devastated, mourning the loss of 4 of its men. Our thoughts are with you. Good night.